Hey guys, Bubba here at the Bubbanews, all in one word, all in one news. How are you guys doing tonight? It's now June 9th, 6/9/2025, 699. This is crazy. I'm just calling this one Iran warns us. Iran warns the U.S. Iran warns Israel. Iran warns the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran warns Europe. Who didn't Iran warn today? That's a question I have. Asking for a friend. This is crazy. I mean, we're going to get to this today. We're going to talk about Iran. We're also going to talk about Trump with his big parade coming up this weekend and the big protests that are going on this weekend as well. Hey, stuff's going to start getting squirrely. Yeah, that's for sure. That goes without saying, but I love this, and I'm throwing this up for the verse of the day. And I love how they used Galatians 6:9 of all things, because today is June 9, 6:9. Let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. And I was checking out this verse here on the Bible app. If you guys don't have this app, I strongly recommend it. Well, yeah, we're going to get there, but this is the literal word app. And it has it in King James Version, sorry about that, NASB 95, which I use a lot, and then ESV and one more. But anywho, my point being is it tagged this verse here in James 5:7. Therefore, be patient, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. And I found this part interesting next. The farmer waits for the precious produce of the soil, being patient about it until it gets the early and late rains. The farmer waits for the precious produce, being patient until it gets the early and late rains. We might have to do a rabbit trail on that one sometime, but it's so exciting because you too be patient. Verse 8, strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Do not complain, brethren, against one another, so that you yourselves may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing right at the door. Jesus is standing right at the door as the judge, and right there in James 5:9, and we see there in Revelation 4:1, the door is opened. And the judge is right there at the door. And we get to go in and exit stage planet Earth. But I'm excited because we're getting closer. And right there, for in due time, we will reap if we do not grow weary. And what were we just talking about the other night? How we're all getting weary. The stress, the pressure, everything. Man, it's getting crazy town. But hey, speaking of crazy town, the coming attack on Iran could very well be taking place later this week. Israel is now fully prepared to strike Iran. Even today, a huge phone call between Trump and Netanyahu went on for 40 minutes. And a media ban was implemented regarding Netanyahu's security consultations on Iran. So then Netanyahu entered a meeting with all the heads of the defense establishment, with the focus being on Iran. Just to tell you why, the list of ministers that attended this meeting following Netanyahu's call with Trump was not only Netanyahu, but Defense Minister Katz, Strategic Minister Dermer, Security Minister Ben Gvir. He's never allowed into these meetings. The Chief of Mossad, Barnea, the Chief of Staff is Amir, the Air Force Commander Barr, Finance Minister Smotrich. He, along with Ben Gvir, are never allowed into these meetings. And of course, the Chief of the Shin Bet was there, but as talks collapse, the military action is very likely coming up. We're going to get back to that in a minute, but we all remember Greta Thunberg. How dare you? That girl, with her flotilla was on the way to Gaza there, the Madeleine. How is she doing? Well, she's doing just fine, and she couldn't wait to dig in to the Israeli food. Just look at her face. Here's Greta in the hands of the IDF. She didn't save Gaza, but she did get a sandwich. Yummy. The IDF takeover of Greta's ship took less than 5 minutes, and several female fighters, commandos, special forces took part in the operation. And one of them handed Greta this famous sandwich now. And just about 10 days ago, Greta Thunberg joined a group of international activists aboard the yacht Madeleine as part of a Gaza Freedom Flotilla, aiming to break Israel's naval blockade to Gaza. But last night, on June 8th, Israeli Naval Force commanders intercepted the vessel on international waters and escorted it to Ashdod, detaining the activists on board. So this had 11 activists and one reporter from Al Jazeera, of all things. And it entered Ashdod around 8 p.m. Israeli time, or 1 p.m. Eastern time, but man, she sure got hungry. Goodness gracious. Speaking of goodness gracious, Iran's National Security Council, they continue to kick the can down the road on the nuclear talks. And keep in mind that Iran only has a few short days to comply. At least that's what, Trump still has a 60-day threat. If Trump told Netanyahu to hold off the attack today, he did to tell him just for a little bit longer. But Israel's getting fully prepared. Israel's like a hunting dog, and they can't wait to be unleashed. When will the starting gun go off for Israel? It just might be in a few days from now. I'll have to keep an eye on it, but this is a very big week this week, no doubt, with everything going on. We're going to talk more about the rhetoric of Iran in a minute. But now switching to Ben-Gvir, our buddy, the Temple Mount activist with him. Well, this other guy, a Democrat, MK Gilad Karib, he said that Temple Mount activists are exploiting the backing being given by National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and a lack of enforcement to fundamentally alter the status quo of the Temple Mount. So this guy sent a letter to all the security heads of state, and he warned that these activities are creating a clear danger of violent escalation, bloodshed, and significant harm to the country's international relations. And in the letter, this guy mentioned two recent incidents. The first was on May 13th, when activists tried to bring a live goat onto the Temple Mount as a sacrifice. And then the second was on Shavuot, just last week, when worshippers, including those two men dressed as high priest, well, they attempted to do the wave sheaf offering for Shavuot. And they're saying that these extremists on the Temple Mount are repeatedly pushing the boundaries and deliberately escalating tensions on the Temple Mount. And this guy's saying that these guys, the Temple Mount activist actions could harm relations with Jordan, which is monitoring the situation closely. But you know what? Ever since taking office in late 2022, Ben-Gvir there with Potbelly, he's repeatedly announced that the status quo on the Temple Mount had changed and that Jewish prayer is now permitted. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. But Trump and Israel are never going to agree to disarm their nuclear program in Israel. Here's why. We're going back to Iran now. I know, I feel like we're on a bad movie. Yeah, let's keep going to Iran next. But the Iranian Supreme National Security Council stated that any Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear facilities will be met with a response that will target Israel's concealed or hidden nuclear infrastructure. In a now retracted article, the New York Times stated today that Iran had submitted a counter-proposal to the U.S., saying that Iran will limit uranium enrichment to only 3.67% for peaceful civilian use, only if Israel dismantles its entire nuclear arsenal and commits to a nuclear-free Middle East. I don't think that's going to happen. But if the New York Times story was true, and if this is what Iran truly proposed, then the Trump-Netanyahu meeting today was definitely very interesting, because this was very non-ordinary. Let's put it that way. Because so many of Israel's top military and security echelon attended this phone call and listened in right afterwards. I mean, they were right there. Even Iran's Supreme National Security Council, they're nervous about the International Atomic Energy Agency. And the report's coming out this week, the IAEA. Well, Iran's Supreme National Security Council said in a statement today that any aggression by Israel against the Iranian nuclear facilities will be met with an immediate strike on Israel's secret nuclear sites. Iran is threatening so that the U.S. and Israel won't carry out any attack on Iran. Iran warns that any attack would be the end of Israel and all of the U.S. military bases in the Middle East region. My goodness. But sticking with Iran, the head of the IAEA, Grossi there, he told Director General, he told I-24 News that Iran warned that if Israel strikes Iran's nuclear sites, then Iran said that they will start building a nuclear bomb. In other words, Iran has nuclear bombs ready to go and will use them as a response to Israel with the threat of their humongous True Promise 3 hypersonic missile and drone swarm attack that they still want to launch on Israel. But the IAEA chief here, Grossi, he said he received a written warning from the Iranian high command stating that if Israel strikes its nuclear facilities, it will develop a nuclear bomb within weeks. What do you guys think? Do you think Iran has a nuclear warhead, or at least has a few possibly ready to go? It's very possible because Israel is in the final stretch of preparations for this potential strike on Iran. And N12 News from Israel today reported, including operational plans for the attack, and the munition supplies are being ready for this upcoming operation. Because Israel has been planning and practicing for this attack on Iran for many years now. Israel's readiness factor is at the highest it's ever been for Iran. Let's put it that way. Let's scroll in here. Very bottom dot right there is the Bushehr nuclear plant, number 1, and they're finishing up number 2 and 3 here soon. But the IAEA director, Grossi, he told the Jerusalem Post today that Iran warned that an Israeli strike on its nuclear sites could lead Iran to pursue nuclear weapons and then also exit the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So Grossi, who has met with multiple Iranian leaders, said this is a very serious threat and not just posturing. I agree with Amir Sephardi in his synopsis by saying don't be anywhere near any nuclear sites in Iran from this point going forward. Because Jeremiah 49 verses 35 and 37 say these things. Thus says the Lord of hosts, behold, I am going to break the bow of Elam, the finest of their might. I will shatter Elam before their enemies and before those who seek their lives. I will bring calamity or disaster upon them, Iran. Even my fierce anger, declares the Lord, and I will send out the sword after them until I have consumed them. Jeremiah 49 verses 35 and 37. I mean, Iran has never sounded more desperate than the last couple of days, it seems like. It's like I think they know what's coming. Even today, the IRGC chief, Hossein Salami, he urged Palestinian terror leaders like the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, this goofball on the left-hand side, to strike Israel, calling it a strategic opportunity. At this moment, make use of all talents and capabilities. Under current circumstances, Palestine can deliver the most effective blow to Israel. And I think he's talking about the West Bank breaking through and doing a mass attack on Israel. I don't know. But Iran's chief commander Hossein Salami also said that access to newly obtained intelligence on Israeli nuclear sites and other sensitive sectors, that report came out on Saturday, that this will enhance the accuracy of Iran's missile strikes launched against Israel and will make Iran's operations all the more effective in attacking Israel. I don't know. So earlier today, Trump said that the U.S. and Iranian negotiators will meet now on Thursday, June 12th. I've seen other reports now that they're talking about meeting Friday, June 13th, and possibly even Sunday, June 15th for the 6th round of talks. But the very last day of Trump's 60-day deadline is June 11 and 12. I mean, talk about literally going down to the wire with these talks. Trump stressed that Iran is asking for things you can't do. Here's what he said. They want to enrich, and we can't have that. Trump also said that the conversation with Netanyahu was good today. He said, we talked about a lot of issues. We're going to try to get a deal with Iran so that there is no destruction and death. We will soon find out if that is possible. That's what Trump said. We're going to come back to an analysis about what's going on there with Iran, but the Houthis launched a new ballistic missile towards Israel earlier this afternoon, and it never made it to Israel, but it landed in the Saudi desert. So Israel issued a new Arabic evacuation notice for 3 seaports there under Houthi control. So it says that evacuating ports will keep you safe, and we urge all those present at these ports to evacuate and stay away from them for your own safety until further notice. So it looks like Israel's going to hit on in Yemen again soon. And there's 3 reasons why. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but they're doing this to show off to the world that they're ready, and they're showing this to even Iran that they're ready and that they can do this on their own. The 2 sides in the nuclear talk still want an agreement, and the upcoming round of nuclear meetings is proof of that. But it seems that the Iranian regime is losing hope in actually reaching a deal with the U.S. So President Trump's uncompromising position on enrichment in Iran, which is based on the lack of understanding of the significance of enrichment in Iran, certainly by Supreme Leader Khomeini, is preventing an agreement from being reached, because Iran will not be giving up enrichment, even for the removal of all sanctions imposed by the United States, since Iran has already received recognition of its right to enrich, as they've been doing for years now, with the IR-6 and now the IR-9 centrifuges. Iran will not back down, even if the likelihood of a mega conflict increases. It made me think, because pride always leads to a fall. But this position of Iran, together with the International Atomic Energy Agency's moves against Iran, in light of the agency's harsh report on the status of the Iranian nuclear program, places the parties, despite their basic desire for an agreement, on the brink of conflict. Because without an agreement to curb the expected snapback in light of Iran's unprecedented progress in their enrichment, escalation seems almost inevitable. The unprecedented amount of enrichment to 60% and the lack of a monitoring regime, this is this is leading to the understanding that it is not possible to determine the level of Iran's nuclear technology right now, and even to determine if it's only for peaceful needs. Even with no agreement in sight, and in light of the Western anger of Iran's nuclear conduct, tension continues to rise. As seen by the statements coming out from the Iranian security officials that I just read a few minutes ago. Iran's starting to freak out, because even if Iran wants an agreement, it seems to be losing confidence in its ability to achieve one, especially in the face of the Trump administration and the continued maximum pressure campaign. Right now, we are much closer to an escalation than we are towards any political solution or any kind of deal. TikTok is what I said. Speaking of TikTok, I know you guys have been keeping up with this, because this has just been nuts. You guys have read about this by now, I'm sure, but U.S. military is set to temporarily deploy about 700 Marines. Of course, maybe it's only 500 now. But additional until the next National Guard troops arrive in the city. Another 2,100. So about 300 California National Guard troops were deployed to the streets of L.A. on Sunday to help quell the 3rd day of protests. And the number of National Guard troops is expected to rise by 2,000 or 2,100 by Wednesday. But until then, the Marines are expected to provide support. So it's unclear what the Marines are going to be actually doing. And I'll have to look into this. But as of now, the Insurrection Act is not expected to be invoked. Even though Trump and Pete Hegseth and all the big boys went to Camp David earlier today to talk about this, as of now, it's not expected to be invoked. But the official added that the situation is fluid and could change, because the U.S. military cannot perform law enforcement activities while inside the U.S. without invoking the Insurrection Act. And the Pentagon is often called on to respond to national crises. But, you know what? Everybody's in on the rhetoric. Even Speaker Mike Johnson. The lawlessness happening in L.A. is another reason why we need to pass the one big, beautiful bill immediately. The U.S. Marines are set to deploy to L.A. to protect federal property and personnel, not used for law enforcement. And even a U.S. official told Fox News tonight, this is an open-ended deployment, I am told. So use of force rules are unclear, but the Marines will not be in a role of law enforcement, supposedly, for now. So it's not clear what the rules of engagement are or what the response will be. Say if someone throws bottles or rocks at United States Marines. that could get ugly real fast. And I saw the initial report where they were going to deploy from 29 Palms, but I believe I read where they were deploying from, the other in Pendleton out there, I believe it was. Yeah, but, they received a prepare to deploy orders from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth yesterday. And these riots are definitely being organized to take over the news cycle so that BBB passes. This is not Build Back Better, BBB, but the BBB, Big Beautiful Bill. It's the same thing that's going on. It's the acronym of BBB. It's just Trump's version. To get to the same destination, digital control of the masses. The surveillance state coming for your peace and security. And cheerleader Mike Johnson's all aboard for what's coming. But Trump really knows how to stir the pot, doesn't he? Trump, if they spit, we will hit. And I promise you they will be hit harder than they have ever been hit before. Such disrespect will not be tolerated. And I agree. They should not be spitting on our police. They should not be spitting on our National Guard. They should not be spitting or getting anywhere close to these U.S. Marines. But something's still coming up, I believe, with the Houthis. And earlier it was reported that Israeli warplanes were on their way to Yemen. And that airstrikes were expected. But I didn't see anything else. But the strikes that Israel does on Yemen are going to serve three purposes. It's going to be a message to the U.S. and Iran that Israel can do these long-range strikes on their own. It's going to be a training scenario for the Israeli Air Force readiness in the use of different GBUs to simulate how an Iranian strike would happen, as well as a refueling scenario. And it's a message internally to the barbaric inhabitants of the Houthis that Israel can still fight multiple fronts all at once. So Friday is Friday the 13th. They're having the Paris Peace Forum. It's the final day of the International Atomic Energy Agency talks there regarding Iran in Vienna. It's also possibly going to be the day of the sixth round of talks between the United States and Iran. But June 14th, Saturday, Flag Day, is going to be so much more than just Flag Day. It's going to be more than celebrating the Army's 250th birthday. And it's going to be more than celebrating President Trump's birthday. Because President Trump wants tanks in the street of D.C. and a made-for-TV display of his dominance for his birthday celebration in Washington, D.C. But I'm watching this No Kings movement, and you guys can go check them out at NoKings right there.org. But, over 2 million Americans have signed up to protest this Saturday, June 14th already. In America, we don't do kings. This is nuts. This group, they have decided to protest. Disappearing from our streets. Protect our civil rights. Slash our services. Corruption has gone too far. No thrones. No kings. No crowns. I mean, this is nuts. So the No King statement is a spectacle meant to look like strength. But real power is not staged in Washington. It rises up everywhere else. No Kings is a nationwide day of defiance. From city blocks to small towns, to courthouse steps, to community parks. We're taking action to reject authoritarianism and show the world what democracy really looks like. We're not gathering to feed his ego. We're building a movement that leaves Trump behind. The flag does not belong to President Trump. It belongs to us. We're not watching history happen. We are making it. On June 14th, we're showing up everywhere that Trump isn't to say no thrones, no crowns, no kings. Here's what I'm talking about. And we'll go look at the map here in a second. This is nuts. They want to make June 14th the culmination of everything. NoKings.org to find the locations near you so you'll know where to stay away from. But this is where they are organizing the protest from. It even shows you all the NGOs, the non-government organizations that are funded by our own government. People are going to start calling for the Insurrection Act to be signed and evoked next. Because as mainstream Americana sees this, they're going to want all these protesters to be put aside and to stop protesting. They're going to call for the Insurrection Act. That is not good. You guys remember the Civil War movie in 2024? Well, it followed a team of war journalists who were traveling from New York City to Washington, D.C. during a civil war being fought across the United States between a despotic federal government and cessationist movements to interview the President of the United States before rebels take the capital city of D.C. This is all predictive programming 101. This is nuts, and I wanted to show this to you. Oh, here is his birthday. Actually, I'll go to the website first. For the No Kings, this is it here. Check out all these, and it's really wild. So, right, I live in the Midwest. So let's just scroll here into Bloomington, Illinois, down into St. Louis. Okay, over here to Indiana. I mean, it looks like a bad chickenpox virus and disease already, right? Well, let's go to the West Coast. Look at all this insanity around King County in Seattle. Just nuts. Portland, there's still all kinds of shenanigans in Portland, but it's the Bay Area and the Los Angeles. Look at this in the Bay Area. This is nuts. All this stuff is coming. Of course, we've got our buddies down there in Los Angeles. Yeah, these protests are going to get nuts. These protests are actually going to get nuts. And I have a feeling that something's going to happen to kick these things off even more. But here's the president's, the U.S. Army. They're doing their 250th official birthday parade route. And the parade begins there on June 14th at 6:30 p.m., starting at 23rd Street Northwest and ending at 15th Street. So it's going to start over there on the left in front of the Lincoln Memorial. It's going to go over almost 1 mile, 0.9 miles, 9 blocks there to just in front of just past the Washington Monument, right in front of the White House there. So this is insane because it shows you how much they're going to, look at this, the pricing. And they're saying that I think upwards, 16 to 25 million are just going to be for the roads, the repair. And literally they were showing goodness, it's a minimum of $3 million per block. Look at that, 28 Strykers, 28 M1A2 Abrams tanks, 28 Bradley fighting vehicles, 4 Paladins, 62 miscellaneous vehicles, 50 aircraft such as the Blackhawks, Apaches, and Chinooks. This is just crazy, guys. But you know what? This is the thing I'm keeping my eye on. I'm keeping my eyes on the Lord Jesus Christ, but I'm also keeping my eye on all the insanity going on because this is just crazy town because Iran is warning us. Iran is warning Israel. Iran is warning the world. You know, it should be us that are warning America because we're seeing the things that are happening even in our own backyard. And yes, everything going over there is absolutely cuckoo town in Iran. But this nationwide day of defiance? Is it not just me, or do you guys see the bigger picture where they want to bring this surveillance state in, and they want to bring in about this chaos so they can try to bring about order? Problem, reaction, solution? And this was earlier, and I know they probably updated it, but just to show you, the protests that are being planned for June 14th. Tell me that's just not nuts. Planned rallies all across the United States into Alaska. I don't know about you guys, but it is getting crazy town. For those of you who are new, again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, moderators, for taking care of tonight. And thank you guys for being here in the premiere. Let's see here. What's next? We have a Mrs. Bubba tomorrow afternoon with some physical therapy there with the arm. We're going to find out a little bit more, see what's going on. And then there at 6 p.m. Eastern time, probably between 6 and 6:30 p.m., I'll be there trying to give the Bubba report, is what he likes to call it, over there with Vindog. But so many guys have been busy so much. Those guys have been busy with their conference there in Arizona. And then thank you so much, guys, for praying for Watchman River Tom. He had his court date today. And I haven't heard the outcome, but I was texting him this evening, and we were discussing Iran back and forth and talking about Elam and Jeremiah 49 verses 35 and 37 and how they're going to be dismayed and how this is going to become a humanitarian crisis in verse 36. But it's all getting ready to snap together into place. And while the world is looking at everything starting to fall apart. And, even if, it should be Iran divides us almost, because there is like a dividing line. And I think part of the plan, too, that they want is to bring America weaker from within. Because part of the globalist plan is for America to fall, but to crumble her from the inside, so that any external attack from the outside will be that much easier. Those plans, I believe, are still in play, but guys, keep in mind the freedoms that we have now, if and when they do evoke this Insurrection Act, and then martial law start coming into play, you can expect the ammunition stores to be shut down. Remember COVID when they did the same thing? Just a thought for those of you who want to get more of your rounds before Crazy Town hits. So, yeah, we've got some crazy days coming up, guys. This is going to be a big week. But, as Iran warns us, we want to warn the world because Jesus Christ is coming so very soon. And if you don't know Jesus today, ask him to show you him now, because he will, guys. This is getting nuts. Something is getting ready to happen soon. I believe it's this year. I don't know the day nor the hour, but there's going to be millions of us that are going to disappear around the world. And when you're left behind, if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, what are you going to do? What's your backup plan? Because the Bible tells us specifically what's coming. As we read there in the book of Revelation, as well as in Daniel, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah, other places and more, but it's all starting to come to pass. Are you getting ready? Because we're getting ready for eternity. Man, it's getting close, guys. All right, let's end this up, and we'll get her uploaded, and I'll see you here, there, or in the air.